we have yet another redemption story. This is a Catholic turned atheist turned Catholic saint. I love these stories because they just give me so much hope. With that said, sometimes life can be hard to handle, and it's easy to become bitter, especially when a child experiences a lot of trauma and disappointment throughout their early life. It's easy in these cases to grow up to become a bitter and angry adult. Charles de Foucauld was no exception to this. His mother died after a miscarriage, and his father just months later. Charles found himself orphaned at just 6 years old. His paternal grandmother would take care of him for a while until she too died. He would then be left with his maternal grandfather. He would die when Charles was only 18, leaving the boy with a great deal of wealth that, well, a teenager usually can only dream up. Wealth plus bitterness plus youth? Well, that equals a life of debauchery. Born and raised in France as a Catholic, he now doubted God even existed. He paraded his mistress around unapologetically and unashamed. Keep in mind, this was the mid to late 1800s in a very Catholic France. He was eventually expelled from a boarding school for being lazy and undisciplined. In the words of a website dedicated to this saint, he was lost. Like many young adult trust fund babies, Charles decided he wanted a bit of adventure. He joined the military, but got bored and left. He would then find himself in Morocco. Morocco, at the time, was resisting French colonial expansion in the area and did not take too kindly to Europeans, especially the French. That did not deter Charles de Foucauld. He was ready for the risk, and he reportedly disguised himself as a rabbi to get into the country. It is here that Charles started to feel the tug of the Holy Spirit. And what was it that tugged at his heart? It was the devotion of the Muslims in Morocco. He was awed by this devotion and the thirst that had been left in his heart, the emptiness there. It called him to question his own dismissal of the faith in which he was raised. He wandered with an A, not an O, for many years in Morocco, in Sahara, and in Palestine. As he opened his heart to the questions of his faith, he was overwhelmed by the power of God's love. He began to pray over and over again, "My God, if you exist, let me come to know you." This prayer is proof that even the simplest prayers can be beautiful and profound. This desire to find God led him to the choice to live like Jesus did. And when I say like Jesus did, I mean that very literally. Jesus lived a life of poverty and was from Nazareth. So this trust fund baby took a vow of poverty and joined the Poor Clares in Nazareth. He discerned the priesthood there, and at the age of 43 was ordained. It's around this time he went back to the Sahara in French Algeria. He moved to be with the Tuareg. That's a society of nomadic people who move with their livestock to places of pasture and water. They are mostly Islamic and are known for their traditional blue turbans. He learned their language and even wrote a French to Tuareg dictionary. On December 1st, 1916, a group of bandits planning to kidnap Charles dragged him out of his hermitage. One of the bandits became startled, and Charles was shot and died. The Tuareg people, out of love and respect for the very man who had so loved and respected them, buried him quickly. So, what can we take from this saint's story? Well, we have yet another story of redemption. Someone who led a life seeking worldly pleasure, eventually opening his heart to God and shedding all of those shallow and finite desires in order to seek the deep and eternal love of Jesus. He would be quoted as saying, "The moment I realized that God existed, I knew that I could not do otherwise than to live for Him alone." These redemption stories remind us that no matter where we are in life, or maybe where a loved one is, there is hope. I go over a lot of redemption stories on this channel, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss them. You can also help me out by liking, commenting, and sharing this video. One more quick thing before moving on. This saint was brought to my attention by Mother-Loving Christian. He has a very entertaining channel and has been a supporter of my channel. So I encourage you to go over there and subscribe. Anyway, back to Charles. He not only gives us a redemption story, but he was also a man who led a Christian life among those who were not Christian. He respected their culture and their faith, but he said he wanted to, catch this, shout the gospel with his life and to live in a way that would make people ask, if such is the servant, then what must the master be like? Think on that for a moment. To live a life as close to Jesus as possible so that when people think of you, they are reminded of Jesus and that Jesus is even better, like way better, like way better. He desired to live like Christ so that he could bring that devotion that he saw and admired from a different culture and religion and move that devotion to Christ. He would also say, it is not necessary to teach others, to cure them, or to improve them. It is only necessary to live among them, sharing the human condition and being present to them in love. So, shout the gospel with your life. Live as Jesus taught us to live and show the joy it is to live in the love of God. You might be surprised by how others will want to follow your lead. Speaking of young men with too much time and money on their hands, born 20 years before Charles, but over in Italy, a young man named Gabriel was leading a vain and secular life. He too turned things around, but to hear his story, well, you know the drill. Saint Charles de Foucauld, pray for us.